Hi, thank you. Hope everyone is doing okay today, and thank you, Devin, for the interesting presentation about OpenSea. We have, of course, a little bit of an opposite approach, but yeah, today I'm going to be talking about a little bit more in-depth about what we're doing at Axie. And if you haven't heard about me or Axie Infinity, very briefly, I've been involved in the blockchain gaming space since pretty much day one, from CryptoKitties, and then helped start up Axie in early on 2018. So for those of you who haven't heard about Axie, very briefly, started out as a simple game, and now we are a digital pet universe where players use their game characters for multiple different games. And so far we sold game characters for over 1.3 million USD, and that includes both land and Axies themselves. Oh, Puff is trying to escape. Let's try to keep him stable. It's good, it's good, it's good. So, I'm not going to go too in-depth about Axie itself, but in short, players can raise their game characters, breed to get new Axies, and also battle them against other players in a 3 versus 3 scenario. We quickly realized that our game players, they actually wanted more, so we created this game platform where players can now use their Axies for multiple different kind of games. And we call that Lunasia. So Lunasia is the virtual world. Players can use the Axies that they have to attack different kind of monsters and harvest tokenized resources. So we have our own marketplace that we have developed ourselves, and we do that because we want to control the user experience and make sure that everyone is happy and dandy. What we believe with Lunasia is that we want to allow players to create different kind of games and place that on top of their land, and empowering the creators to make sure that they can use this platform correctly. And that's what I'm going to talk about today as well when it comes to the tokens, how we are incentivizing creators and also players to actually use this game world. So a little bit about what we're doing with Lunasia. So we're developing an SDK, which is basically going to be a very easy-to-use framework where players create games. So I come from the esports space. And for those of you who don't know, Warcraft 3, that is where Defense of the Ancients started. And that's where the entire MOBA started. So what we believe is that while we can create many, many cool and nice games, the real power will come from user-generated content, and we need to incentivize people to make user-generated content. And that does not only include games, that also includes creating a framework where players can actually create their own tokens and also do revenue sharing. So we will work as a distribution platform for players or for game creators who want to tap into an already existing community of DApp players. So Jeffrey has already had an in-depth presentation about our community, so I'm not going to talk too much about that. But if you guys are not familiar with it, we have players who are taking tattoos, they create a lot of different kind of artwork, and they also created multiple games already. And this is just the beginning. So we believe also in creating frameworks so that people can create more advanced tools. But at the beginning, you will be able to use Axie Infinity assets to create easy-to-use games. So more onto the economic part of the presentation. Since the beginning, we have only used NFTs. And that was very simply because we didn't really believe in what has been commonly known as a shitcoin. Basically, people are trying to make different kind of economy or currencies that they are using in their game worlds, but they don't really have true utility. So we just skip that level and allow players to simply create or to buy, NFTs. And the way we created these NFTs is by following this framework. So you can see in the middle there, we have the Black Lotus. It's a very iconic game card used in Magic the Gathering. There are only about 1,100 of them in existence left. And the most expensive one was sold for $160,000. And the reason for that is because it follows all these three things. It's scarce, so limited edition. It has a very unique and attractive look. And it's also really, really strong in the game. In fact, it's so strong that they had to ban it from multiple game modes in Magic the Gathering. And we have also done that when it comes to Axies themselves. So what we believe is that when we design good NFTs, we not only create value for ourselves, but we also share the value with our players. So when we released Axies, we had a pre-sale, and we sold Origin Axies. They were highly limited edition, and a small portion of them basically could be randomly rolled into what we call the Mystic Axies. So there are only 4,077 Origin Axies in existence, and about 33% of them could be rolled into Mystic Axies. So what has happened now is that the players, they are actually identifying themselves with these game characters. They are using them as social proof, and they really love to show off their game assets. And we believe this is the fundamentals of one of the most important things when it comes to NFTs. So as you can see, some of the trades here that have happened on our marketplace, and the reason why these Axies have gone up in value is because people, of course, are speculating on them when they see that we keep developing new things in our game. So that is what we had. And now I'm going to go into a little bit more of the Axie marketplace. So far, we have had $1,100,000 traded between players. Players trade about $750 a yearly, over 20,000 sales, and the most expensive Axie ever sold was sold for $15,000. And of course, it's because of it followed the triple threat framework in Axie. We also have land, and that is now active on our secondary marketplace as well, and it sold for the most expensive one sold for over $5,000. And we take a commission fee on that. And as you can see, well, it's going pretty well. So we're pretty happy about our marketplace so far. So that's what we had so far. And now on to what maybe some of you guys didn't expect, but here it is. It's what we called the Luna token. So the Luna token, before we begin, I want to define it first. It is a speculative asset or speculative token, not necessarily a cryptocurrency that's going to be used as a flat, like going to stay at $1. But we believe that we want our players to be able to speculate on something, but we don't want new players to immediately buy a lot of Luna tokens and then lose the money if the value goes up and down. So we're going to have a two-part token system within our game. So one will be a speculative type of asset, and another one will be a more stable type of currency where new players are onboarded into the system. So the Luna token has already been released. There are going to be 420 million of it. What I won't disclose today is the issuance and allocation, totally the percentage-wise, because that's still being determined. But the idea is that players will be able to get this Luna token over a period of time. So let's say the issuance period is going to be 4 years, just as an example here. So in this situation, a player will be able to earn the token by either playing the game, of course, so you attack different kind of monsters, or you attack different kind of players, and you get a Luna-specific reward. Also, if you create content, basically you stream the game, you create an art piece, or you even create games, then you will also be incentivized by Luna tokens. So what can you exactly do with the Luna token? That's always interesting. Naturally, you can spend it on something. So what we have said is that players can spend the Luna token on paying the marketplace fees. You need it to level up your Axies. You need it to improve your lands. Perishable assets, so basically when you're playing battle mode, you need to buy different kind of potions and that kind of thing, and also to pay tournament fees and craft different kind of Axies. But now comes the more interesting part. Even if you don't have Luna, you can still participate in the ecosystem. So what we believe in is that players can spend any type of token they want. What happens on the back end is that the token they use, so let's say that I want to spend Ether, I want to spend Bitcoin, I want to spend Loom, Matic, whatever it has to be. I spend the token. On the back end, it's going to buy Luna from the open exchange, and it's going to lock up 50% is going to be locked up, 20% is going to the staking pool, and 30% of the tokens will be burned immediately. All happens through a smart contract, so hopefully there will be no regulatory issues, but you never really know. So full disclosure there. And for the people who can see here, this drives demand for the Luna token itself. So what happens if there's a staking pool? Well, of course, players, well, they can stake the token. And the way that we see it is that we need to teach players about staking. So we're not going to call it staking in the game. The idea is that you use it as a battle pass. So you get onboarded as a new player. You start to play the game. Maybe you get a small reward of Luna tokens. And then you lock them up, or basically put them into your battle pass, which is actually staking. And then you get a small cosmetic rewards. The more tokens that you stake, the more rewards you are going to get. And you can also use them as a voting feature in Lunasia. And eventually, you will need tokens locked up to be able to create a guild, or to be able to create a decentralized autonomous organization within Lunasia. And the staking pool. So as you can see here, there's a 20% staking pool that is going to be distributed to the people who hold Luna as well. But then people can say, well, what happens when the Luna tokens are issued? So I said 4 years from the beginning. That's why we have the locked pool. After 4 years, it's going to refill the available tokens, the issuance. So by saying that, we can always have this flow of Luna flowing from the issuance pool. So after 4 years, it's going to go from the locked pool into Luna tokens again, and players can keep playing. And by that, we'll have eventually and hopefully a lot of different people holding Luna tokens as time passes. Thank you, Jeffrey. Coincidentally, Axie team member, so no wonder, and also co-designer of the system. Okay, that's very briefly about the Luna token. If you guys have any questions about this, feel free to answer. Feel free to ask them, not answer. I'm going to try to answer. But yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Please ask questions if you have them. Anyone want to do the first question? There's obviously a rousing group of your...
Where can you buy Luna token? So this is still a work in progress. It's the first time we have actually spoken about this in public, so I'm happy that you guys got to see it. When it comes to buying, selling, trading Luna tokens, we're still figuring out exactly how we're going to do that. But in all likelihood, we're going to be talking to different kind of exchanges and then possibly selling that out. So we'll see. Nothing is 100% sure yet.
Anything else people want to ask? I mean, I think it's a fascinating journey to go from pure NFT to actually looking at token as a kind of mechanism. I think one thing we were talking about briefly before you started is I'm also fascinated how people then use that and maybe even go further and perhaps start building more kind of resource-based elements, more consumable elements of gameplay in the blockchain in that way. Do you think that's a trend, or are we starting to, or is it just that every game's going to be different?
No, I think everyone is going to have tokenized resources if you're actually making a blockchain type of game. So what we believe in is that, I said that you needed to have Luna to, for example, level up your Axies, but you will also need to have resources that you find in the game. And that's on purpose so that we don't get this very much pay-to-win kind of thing immediately. Of course, since every asset is tokenized, people are going to be able to trade them eventually. But I mean, then we can at least reward the people who are early on in the network and that they can start harvesting different kind of resources.
And I think when you start getting to that design metaphor where it's an emergent property, how many people have those assets, pay for those assets, and therefore the price and the balance of that becomes natural to gameplay, that's going to be a really fascinating thing. But frankly, the design changes, the lessons, the maths that we have to learn to be able to balance that as game designers is going to be phenomenally difficult, I suspect. For sure. It's not easy. So last chance for a question. And on that note, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.